Hey friends, it's Caitlin. Welcome back to another video, or welcome to a video. If you're new here, my name is Caitlin. I make easy, accessible, and delicious vegan recipes. And if that sounds good to you or appetizing, go ahead and hit that little subscribe button right down there to see all the new content I post every single week. Today I am featuring 3 different yummy and delicious vegan recipes that features one of my favorite summer produce items, tomatoes. Tomatoes are so good in the summer, but I gotta be honest, nothing can compare to a homegrown tomato. So actually, Dylan and I grew all these tomatoes in our garden, but if you don't have a garden or you're not growing tomatoes, you can still get grocery store tomatoes, or maybe check out your local farmer's market too. That's gonna be the best tasting seasonal tomatoes. They just taste so sweet. These sun gold ones are seriously like candy. But anyways, I digress. I love tomatoes. There are a million different ways to use them. You can keep it simple with just some salt and eat it. I would rarely recommend that, honestly, but we're gonna get a little more complicated today, but not too overwhelming, I promise. So I'm gonna show you 3 different recipes that are each going to feature tomatoes in a different way. So let's get into it. So first up, we're going to be making an everything bagel panzanella salad, which is a classic Italian dish, but we're giving it a little bit of a twist. We'll start by making our dressing. Add some red wine vinegar and olive oil to a jar, along with some Italian seasoning and salt, and then we'll seal the lid and just shake that up until it becomes emulsified. You can also just whisk this together, but it's a little more fuss-free in a jar. So now we are going to pour all of our tomatoes into a bowl. I'm using cherry tomatoes. You could also use larger tomatoes too. And then we'll add in some shallot and garlic in that dressing that we just tossed up. And then we're going to mix all of this together and let it marinate while we work on the rest of the recipe. This is really going to draw out some of those juices from the tomatoes, and that will further incorporate into the vinaigrette and make things extra yummy. So now moving on to our panzanella bread part. So usually panzanella salad is made with French bread, but we're giving it a little bit of a fun twist using everything bagels. So my bagels are already cut in half. And then we're going to go ahead and cut these into bite-sized pieces. So I cut my bagels into like 1/6 or 1/8, depending on how small or large you want them. You do you. Panzanella salad, usually the bread is in larger-ish pieces and the outside is toasty, but the inside is still a little soft. So now I'm warming up some oil in a cast iron skillet, and then we're going to add in our bagel pieces. And here I'm just using tongs to sort of get surface area of each of the bagels onto the pan so it gets nice and browned. And we're just going to toast these for a few minutes, flipping around halfway through until all of the oil in the pan is gone and the bagel pieces become nice and browned and toasty. So then you can remove these from the heat, transfer them to a lined baking tray, and if you want to, maybe even sprinkle a little extra salt on them as well. But now it's time to assemble. So we're going to add our marinated tomatoes to a bowl, plus some fun crunchy cucumber for a nice texture variation, and then we'll add in our everything bagel pieces. These do get soggy with time, so add this right before serving. We're going to top it off with some fresh bagel and black pepper, and then stir and combine. If you wanted to make the salad ahead of time, I would just say keep the bagel pieces separate until the very last minute, because personally I'm not a huge fan of soggy bread, though the dressing is quite good. So we're going to top it off with some everything bagel seasoning just for a finishing garnish, and then you're ready to serve and enjoy. This is a great side salad, but you can also add in some chickpeas if you want to have some extra protein with it too. Next up, we're going to be making a tomato galette with dairy-free ricotta. I love this recipe. First, we'll start out by making a vegan ricotta. You may have seen me make this before on the channel. We'll start by adding some soaked cashews to a food processor, along with some firm tofu, plus some nutritional yeast for a subtle cheesy flavor. And then for extra seasonings, we'll add in some garlic, salt, and lemon juice, which gives it a little bit of an extra tang. You can also add lemon zest if you really want to up that zesty flavor. And then we're going to combine everything. Because the cashews are soaked, the food processor turns them into this thick, creamy mixture that is great for vegan ricotta. So now we have that made, we're going to move on to our 3-ingredient dough. I've used this as a pie crust. It's actually in my cookbook too. It's almond flour, arrowroot, or tapioca starch, and salt. You combine that first and mix it up, and in the meantime, you should have 2 flax eggs thickening. So that once those are nice and thickened, you're just going to add it to a bowl and then start by whisking everything together. And then eventually you're going to move to your hands to form a nice kneaded ball. And that being said, if you don't want to use this recipe, you have another pie crust recipe that you love, you can totally use that too. This is just my go-to one. I love how it's buttery and crispy and it's made with really simple ingredients. And yeah, so I make it all the time, but you do you. So now we're going to set that aside and then it's time to assemble, starting with rolling out our pie dough. Because this is a gluten-free dough, it's a little sticky, so I like to stick it between two pieces of parchment paper and then just use a rolling pin to roll it out into a circular-ish shape, though this is a galette, so you can be a little bit rustic if you would like. The edges don't have to be perfectly smooth because we'll be folding them in. So transfer it to a baking tray, and then here we're just going to dollop on a thick amount of the vegan ricotta. This adds some nice creaminess, and once it bakes in the oven, it honestly gets even more delicious somehow. So just plop that all on, and then we're going to go in with our heirloom tomatoes. So I like to cut mine into about 1/2 inch thick slices and arrange them onto the galette sheet like so. And then we're just going to pull the parchment paper up, and as you can see, I'm sort of pinching the dough to create an edge for the galette. And then you're pretty much good to go here if you'd like, but I wanted to give a little extra texture on top of my galette, so I topped it all off with some crushed black pepper and a sprinkle of sea salt. So then we're just going to pop this in the oven. And the tomatoes really slow cook and release all of their juices, which gets incorporated almost into the ricotta. It's an umami, buttery flavor bomb. This is so good. I love to eat this in the summer. You can kind of think of it as like a take on a quiche, just a little softer. It's great with a side salad. All the flavors are just pure summer heaven. You know what I mean? So last but not least, we're going to be making our roasted tomato pasta with basil gremolata. We're going to start by cutting up some cherry tomatoes. You can also use, again, large tomatoes, cut them into smaller pieces. You can use colorful ones here. I kept it classic with some nice red ones. So we're going to cut all of these in half, and then we are going to transfer them to a baking sheet to roast them in the oven. And first we'll start out by giving them a nice little drizzle of extra virgin olive oil. And then you can just toss them with your hands to combine them if you'd like. I just like to do it on the baking tray. It's a lot neater than a bowl. I didn't do it in the video, but I actually recommend flipping them so they're all cut face up. And then we're just going to sprinkle them on top with some Italian seasoning and then some freshly ground black pepper if you like a little more spice in things. And then definitely don't forget the salt. Again, this draws out some of the juices for the tomatoes and it just makes them taste better after they have roasted in the oven. So we're gonna pop those in the oven, and then in the meantime, we'll bring a large pot of salted water to a boil and cook your pasta until it's al dente. I am using just regular linguine here, but you can use another pasta shape or a gluten-free pasta if you would like. Just follow the package instructions, but before you drain the pasta, make sure to reserve around a cup of the pasta water. The starchy liquid is going to help thicken our sauce that we'll get to right now. So we're going to warm some olive oil, about 2 tablespoons in a pan, and then once it's warm, go ahead and add in lots of yummy garlic. And we're going to saute this until the garlic infuses into the oil and starts to turn nice and golden brown and toasty. Can you smell it? I can smell it just by looking at this. I think I'm drooling a little. And then we're going to start out by adding 1/2 cup of the pasta water into the garlic mixture and give that a nice stir to sort of incorporate the oil into it. And then go ahead and add in your cooked pasta. And then we'll add in our roasted cherry tomatoes. See how they get like super jammy, and make sure you get all of that juice in there, because that is actually going to sort of mix with our pasta water oil sauce. And the sauce will turn kind of like a light orangey red color. It's kind of harder to see on camera, but I promise it's there. You're going to mix that all up until the noodles are evenly coated in sauce. You can add more pasta water if necessary, but then take it off the heat. And now we'll quickly make our basil gremolata. So we'll start out with some finely chopped basil, and then we'll grate the zest of both a lemon and then a clove of garlic over top. Gremolata is a classic Italian condiment that's usually made with parsley, but I thought basil is the perfect summer herb, so I really just wanted to, give it a fun twist. So now we're adding in a pinch of salt, and then we'll just mix everything together until it's nice and combined. This is a great flavor packed condiment to put on top of your pasta. A little goes a long way because you have that raw lemon zest and the raw garlic. It's nice and spicy, and then you get that herbiness from the basil that really just pairs so well with those juicy sweet roasted tomatoes. So delicious, you gotta try it. All right, everyone, and there you have it. If you made it this far into the video, leave a comment down below and tell me what your favorite variety of tomato is. Honestly, I don't know if this is basic or not, but I'm gonna go with sun gold tomatoes. They're like cherry tomatoes. They're like golden color. They're super sweet, and they're very much easier to grow than the larger tomatoes. Like heirloom tomatoes, they tend to split easier and they get diseases more, which kind of sucks because, you know, you just want to eat your tomatoes, but the bugs get to it first. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed the video. As always, all the recipes are linked down below. If you want to check them out for later, you can print them, save them to Pinterest, send it to a friend, email it to your grandma. Maybe your grandma's cool, uses Instagram. You can go ahead and follow me over there. I post recipe videos for all these recipes on there, as well as other fun content that you don't always see here on YouTube. So make sure that you're following me on that as well if you're interested in what I do. So that being said, I hope you all really enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for a few more summer recipes before we move into fall content. So again, make sure you're subscribed and take care of yourself, drink tons of water, eat some yummy tomatoes, and have an awesome day / rest of your summer. So I look forward to virtually seeing you again soon. Bye.